All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Do me a favor, folks. If you enjoy this show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. All right, today, I'm just kind of taking it chill these next 2 days. Let's talk about my holiday schedule real quick, which, let me be honest, I was supposed to put something out a little bit before this morning, as in like last night or maybe last week, and I just couldn't get to it. Um, and for whatever reasons. Uh, Here's the thing. I was off last week. Like I was literally off work. I took a whole week off. And you might think, "Wow, Dio, you had so much time available to do all kind of cool stuff." And the actual truth is I did not. Like there's some weird like thing. I don't know. It's like the universe or something where if I take a day off and I'm like, "All right, I'm going to take a day off," one of a couple things happens. Um One, I might have like a long list of things like, "Oh, I'm gonna do all these things," and then I get like maybe a quarter of them done for whatever reason. Or I might say, "I'm gonna take the day off, or a week off or however many days, and I'm just gonna chill and relax. I'm not gonna do anything." Like, and I have in my mind this vision of like waking up, just like just like, "Do I wanna get out of bed? Yeah, maybe I will. Okay. No, I'll just lay here for another half hour." And then I might lay there another half hour, and then I'll mosey out of bed, go downstairs, you know, just casually have breakfast, and then just kind of move around the house, do some things, and then, maybe play some video games, read a book, whatever, right? Like, this is my vision. And neither one of those ever happen, ever. No matter how many times I try. It seems like my time off is actually busier than when I'm at work. Like, I don't really understand how this dynamic works, but it does. There's something weird about it. So I was like crazy busy all last week. And then at one point I was like, what did I even do? And I'm there were a few times where I was like, I'm not even sure what I did. There were a few days where I'm like, I know I could go down the line. So anyway, I didn't really get nearly as much accomplished last week as I'd hoped, and that's unfortunate. Sorry, I got to keep clearing my throat here. I don't know what's going on. All right, so my holiday schedule. What am I going to do? I am podcasting today, as you can see. I'm right here, and then I will be here tomorrow, and then after that, um, so I will do something tomorrow morning. Probably again, keep it chill, just you know, kind of casual. I'm not going to dig into anything super deep. And then Christmas is Wednesday, and then I was planning on not doing anything the rest of the week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I may have a dad on for dad talk on Friday. I was talking. I looked on the calendar and I realized, oh, I do have somebody that I had tentatively scheduled. So I'm going to reach out to them today and just confirm that they're still good. I think they will be. So it's going to be a little bit of a weird week this week because I'm going to do Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Right? That's a little weird. And I don't really like doing that. I would rather start and end like a whole week or maybe in the middle of the week or something. But, just doing this kind of like spotty thing through the week just feels a little bit unnatural or weird, out of sorts. But I'm going to do it this week because I want to keep my commitment to a dad who has agreed to come on the show. So I will be reaching out and just confirming with them. I should be able to tell you for sure tomorrow. I should. So that's my schedule this week. Then I'm gonna throw y'all a curveball. I'm actually gonna take all of next week off podcasting, and I will still be working. So hopefully, what I can do is resolve some of these outstanding things that I've been wanting to do with the show. Um, Between that time. So that's my aim. That's what I'm gonna do. Try to kind of kick off the new year. So I will be back on the 6th. Also, my son is out of school for the next 2 weeks anyway. So that gives me plenty of time to hang out with him, stay up late, all those kind of things. things that, a dad and his son are gonna do. So, so that's my schedule. So again, let me repeat that schedule, and I'm gonna try to come up with some sort of graphic or something that I can put out onto all my stuff. But again, today, tomorrow, possibly Friday, so long as that dad is still game, and then you will not see me again until the 6th, and we will kick off the new year. Right now, why did I not do? I initially was going to do like, hey, come back the first or something like that. I was going to kind of do some wonky thing, but again, it seems kind of weird starting up in the middle of the week. And then also the middle of the week next week is hangover day. Like I'm not going to be hungover, but I know a lot of people will be. And so I thought, well, maybe just give people the chance to sleep in and sleep off the hangover that they're inevitably going to have. And then Thursday and Friday seems like a weird time. So I just was like, you know what? It's just the whole week. Just just take it. And then after that, because there's not really any holidays to worry about for quite a while. So so I think this will be a nice little break, and I can come back kind of refreshed. Hopefully, make some changes. Some of the changes you will notice. Some of them will be more behind the scenes and technical, so they will just help me, and they won't really be a benefit to you. So that's what we got going on. That's my schedule. Hope everybody's cool with that. That Liberty lady says, I wasn't sure if Liberty Dad was going live today. I apologize. Um, I'll get with you more on that. So, um, so yes. Oh, yeah. Here's an interesting question. So we get a new updated bill review video with Liberty's son for the new year. That is the goal. That is the goal. So if you are familiar with the show, I have an old video of my son when he was like 2, sitting in a chair, and I give him like a stack of, like a bill, and then he like signs it like he's the president or something, and then I play the schoolhouse rock music behind it, like, um, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill, that song. So I've been meaning to do an updated version of him now that he's older. He's like 5 now. He's like twice as old as he was when I did that video. So I think an updated version will probably be fun. So aiming to do that. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I actually want to do. So hopefully I can, with this time, with him being home, and then while I'm at work, things will be a little bit slower. Not to say work that I will be doing non-work things, but I'm just saying, my mind will be more clear to do these things after work, of course, or during my lunch break. Throwing that out there. All right. So, what do we got for actual topics today? Well, I saw this pop up, and initially I would just kind of ignored it. I was just like, "Oh, okay, sure, whatever." But then I kept seeing some more of it, and I was like, maybe this could be something to talk about. So Disney pulled a here's the headline: Disney pulls transgender storyline from Pixar's Win or Lose series. So they have a movie coming up, or a series. I mean coming up, and there was a particular character who's supposed to be trans, and this particular, I think I I believe like, they keep the character in there, but they're just kinda changing things, and Disney put out a statement saying, "Hey, like, this is a topic that's, sensitive, and a lot of parents would prefer to talk to their children on their own, at their own time, rather than from a movie, so we're gonna remove this." Okay, fine. Like, whatever, no big deal. And, and at first I wasn't really like I didn't really think of it as much of a show topic, but then I kept seeing things, and then here's this interesting article from somebody wrote an opinion piece in Yahoo News. So I'm going to read through this, probably most of it. I think it's kind of interesting. So they had something very interesting to say. So here it is up on the screen. Let's see here. Might want to zoom in a little bit. There we go. I think that'll work. All right. So this says opinion. Disney pulls trans storyline from animated series. Parents like me appreciate it. Okay. And this is from Nicole Russell, Monday, December 23rd. So it's actually it was actually posted this morning. I saw it, and I have to hand it to the folks at Disney. They make heartwarming movies that my kids and I love. They also say they're going to leave controversial storylines out of those films because they want me, not Hollywood executives, to parent my kids. They really know how to touch a parent's heart, or do they? I'm not sure it's that simple. Disney was in the news last week after the company yanked a transgender storyline from an upcoming Pixar animated series, Win or Lose. The series, which hasn't been released yet, follows a co ed middle school softball team called the Pickles as they get ready for a championship game. Each of the series' 8 episodes focuses on a different character. Win or Lose is set to stream on Disney Plus in mid February. A spokesperson confirmed to news outlets that Disney had cut a few lines of dialogue from an episode that involved a character's gender identity. The company provided the statement to Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter. And this is their quote: "When it comes to animated content for younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline." End quote. Now that's true. We would. I am not interested in pushing things upon my kid other than the things that he absolutely needs. So like, hey, yes, we're going to push potty training, on my kid because he needs to learn to be potty trained, right? Reading, writing, those kind of things. Those are very critical no matter what in any context. They're very, very critical to have. And the earlier that you can learn them, the better off you will be because then you can go on and you can use those skills to build upon other skills that you're going to learn. So, but for the most part, what we do and what I think many parents do is they approach things just as it happens to come up. Yeah, your kid sees it's like when you're out and about and your kid sees a very, very obese person, maybe nobody at home is very obese and they're like, "Why is that person so fat?" And then you got to have a conversation, you're like, "Okay, well, number 1, we don't say that out loud. That's poor form, son, daughter, whatever, right?" But this is how parents operate. Like we get to it when it comes. Same thing with many things. Like I was in no hurry to teach my kid profanities and say these are words that you shouldn't use. And then when he dropped one, he dropped an F bomb very casually at the dinner table. Then it was like, all right, time to address this. So we addressed it. Very simple. He said, "Hey, that's an adult word. You're not supposed to use them." "Okay, dad, I won't." End of story. Right. And that's it. We move on. And then we just kind of let things play out. This is to me what it means to be, to consider a child as, just growing up and approaching the world and keeping their innocence, if you will. Like, don't push it to them, but when they see it or find it, then you address it. And it will depends on the parents and what you do, depends on how quickly you have to address certain things. So, for instance, I monitor the kind of content that my son watches. I'm like, "Are you going to watch stuff that's meant for a 5-year-old?" And part of that is because one, I don't think that he should be seeing certain things or hearing certain things. And then number two, hearing and seeing some of these things, it's just that they're more complex than he is prepared to understand, than I am prepared to try to help him understand. So I don't really make this huge conscious effort like you can't be um introduced to this particular topic, but I just say like if it happens to come up, then sure. But otherwise, let's just focus on where you are, who you are right now. You're a little kid, you do little kid things, you run around, play, and then, you talk about what you learn. All right, let's continue on with this article. Fair enough. As a parent of 4 children who has watched zillions of movies with my kids, I appreciate this. But I'm not naive to think, or not naive enough to think that Disney made the decision to pull this potentially controversial storyline because they respect parents and their decisions. I mean, sure they do. Wink, wink. Right. I agree. Like there's something else going on. What is that something else? Well, turns out the author nails it. Instead, this sounds like a business decision, and it's a solid one. Have you taken your kids to the movies lately? With ticket prices between $8 and $15 or even more, it's fun, but it isn't cheap. Still, children always want to see the latest movies, even though a family of 4 can easily spend $100 or more for an afternoon in a theater if they splurge on popcorn and soda. Right. So, like, there's a lot of money here. Disney Plus, the future home of Win or Lose, runs about $120 to $160 a year. That's actually a bargain compared with the cost of visiting Disney World or Disneyland, where a family can burn through thousands of dollars in a few days. That's also true. Entertaining kids is a lucrative business, but film production companies like Disney know that when it comes to box office smashes, parents fund their revenue stream. This year, for the top 10 box office hits, or animated kid films. All right, and that's pretty much. But there's a little more. But that means Disney and other children's entertainment businesses need to keep parents happy. Most parents aren't keen on controversial storylines in a film that's supposed to be fun or uplifting. If there's a joke or two in there for parents, all the better. One exception to this rule might be Inside Out and Inside Out 2, a couple of emotionally heartwarming and astute films that capture puberty perfectly. Disney knows that more than a few parents will be upset if they plop their children in front of a Disney Plus on a sick day, only to hear their first grader ask later what it means to be transgender. So yeah, a lot of parents would be upset, and that's enough for the article there. A lot of parents would be upset to have that happen, and I mean, and I think people need to recognize I already monitor what he watches, right? So this is not like people will take this and they'll say, "Oh, I can't believe it! You're attacking transgender." You don't want us to be seen. And I seen a lot of comments like that. I had some of them, but I don't know if I'll play them. But there were a lot of comments where people were like, "Hey, it would be nice if we could be seen, or this storyline." In fact, let me pull that up. Let me let me do that. I just can't help myself. So I'm gonna pull that up. So give me just a second here. Let's because I got I got them, so I might as well use them, right? Isn't that kind of how it works? All right, so here we go. All right, so here are some of the comments that we saw. So disappointed in Disney. It's crazy how corporations are so openly rejecting LGBT ideas in the past few years. We are regressing as a society. We're not regressing, okay? What's happening is we're probably actually getting back to a more baseline where companies want to make money and they say, "All right, what's going to be appealing to parents? What's gonna cause them to separate from their money for their kids? Okay, let's do this. Let's remove this thing that's been controversial." And it's been controversial not because of the topic, but mostly because of activists. Because activists just can't seem to let well enough alone or learn when they're actually winning. They just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And, eventually people get tired of it. All right, what other comments we got here? Let's see here. Where's my little button there? All right, so just canceled my Disney Plus subscription. Won't support a service that won't support human rights. You know what? I doubt it. I doubt anybody canceled it over this one show. Seriously doubt that. You didn't. There's think about this. Like, really? You're gonna tell your kids that they can't watch any of the other cool movies because um because one show has removed a line that you think is critical and you're calling that human rights? Like, nobody, there is no right to have representation in a movie. Doesn't exist. It's not there. But I also don't think this person did. This is like the people that are like, "I'm leaving the country if so and so gets elected," and then they're still here in the country. It's the same concept. All right, what else we got? This election really spooked so many with hate winning, leading to decisions like this. No, I don't think it had much. I mean, it's possible. It's possible that you could make this argument and say, like, the government under under Harris would have been more sympathetic, and so therefore Disney might have seen it as more beneficial. But that's a problem because then that means that Disney's not listening to parents; they'd be listening to government. So if that's your argument, then you're basically arguing that Disney is making movies not for the customer, the paying customer. I'm a paying customer. I mean, I don't have Disney Plus, but I'm a paying customer as a parent. And how you behave and you treat my kid and me in particular, that's going to go into this. This is why in that article when she says, "Hey, if there's a line that's in there for adults, one of those clever lines that only adults are going to recognize and the kids just ignore it, and it still continues to be a kid show." Yeah, those are the kind of things that appeal to me as an adult. I like the idea of sitting down watching a movie that's made for children, but has some grown up stuff in there too, right? Like, for fun. Because again, let's think about this. We're talking about films. We're talking about the suspension of disbelief. We're talking about fiction. Many people just want a break from reality. That's their break. So why when I was a kid, I got to grow up and I loved watching Rambo and Jean-Claude Van Damme and all those, martial art movies. You know, like yeah, I got it. This wasn't real, but it was fun to watch. I wasn't watching a documentary. It's like people want to blur the line and say, "Well, no, this has got to all be real." Well, no. Then it's a documentary. It's not a movie. It's not something fun. It's not allowing me to kind of just take a little bit of a break from all the stresses of the day and the week and the month and the year, right? Like that's what we want. That's the whole point of entertainment. Entertain me. Allow me to take a break. All right, what else we got here? Let's see. We're cowards and don't want to depict transgender people in our media because media can make uncomfortable subjects more relatable and digestible. And we want to ensure that trans people remain marginalized as long as possible. Fix the quote. They were quoting the article, the title of the headline. They were just like rewriting their own headline. That's not it either. Again, like if Disney wanted to um, ensure that trans people remained marginalized as long as possible, then they wouldn't have created it in the first place. They would have been like, "Nah, we're not talking about trans people. That's a terrible idea." No. They would have said it no right at the beginning. You wouldn't even have this story arc if they really wanted to marginalize. So like this person, whoever this is, they're not even speaking in facts. They're just making stuff up. This is the world we live in where people make stuff up and they don't speak in reality. So they're cowards. I doubt it. I doubt that Disney is doing anything cowardly. They're doing things based on money, more than likely. This last one is kind of interesting. Genuinely, this would have helped so many scared kids feel seen and do no harm and do no harm to anyone. This is something that would have helped me understand what I was feeling at the time. It would have humanized trans people to me. F Disney for removing this. Okay, let's be clear. Um, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of things that did not at all represent me. For instance, I was a big He-Man fan, right? When I was a little kid, He-Man was my thing. That was my jam, right? I love some He-Man. Can you think of any character that represents me from He-Man? It's definitely not He-Man. He had giant muscles, was huge, carried a broadsword, you know, golden hair. I didn't long, nice golden hair like he was like a California surfer guy, just with big, huge muscles. And he was fighting bad guys that all had all kind of crazy powers. Well, I don't have any crazy powers. I'm not big and bulky. I don't have blonde hair, right? Like I'm not fighting people in outer space, all across the universe. Like, like nothing about this show was representative of me. You might say, well, what's up?
Can I get my toys downstairs?
Yes. Yes. What can I say? We have an open door policy here. Anyway, so like none of this represented me, but I had fun playing with it, right? Rambo didn't represent me when I got a little older, because I'd never been in war. I didn't know any of that. I just liked, big guns shooting the bad guys, blah, blah, blah. Very simple. However, I will point this out because I thought this was kind of interesting because I was just curious and I couldn't help but look it up. And turns out there's actually a lot of representation. So here's Wikipedia. Now I know people don't like using Wikipedia as a source, but when it comes to facts that are kind of indisputable, it's not a bad resource. It really isn't. But here's the title: List of feature films with transgender characters. They might think, oh, there's probably like what, one or two, maybe three, maybe four. Well, let me scroll down and show you. So we scroll down. So it starts, they started in the 19th or the 20th century, 1900 to 1959. So we had characters in 1953, right? And it's got a note here: filmed when it was illegal for a man to cross dress as a woman in public. All right. So there's a film in 1953, then 1954, right? Now one was in the United States, one was in France. We go down 1960 to 1969. So now we're starting to get a couple. We got a couple more there, and then 1970, 1979. Oh, we got a good handful here. Look at that, scrolling down the list, quite a handful. Just scrolling, still scrolling, still scrolling, still scrolling, again, still scrolling. All right, now we got 1980 to 1989. All right, so here we are. All right, scrolling more, scrolling. All right, that's the end of the 80s. Then 1990s. All right, Silence of the Lambs. I don't know that I would. I mean, that is representative, like the character there. That's a little that may not be the one that you wanted, but that's the one you got. 19 still in the 1990s though. Scrolling down, there's more of them, and some of these films are notable. Ace Ventura, that's probably not a very good representation. Some of them may not be good representations, but here's the catch. Here's the catch, transgender folk. If you want to be represented in film on any significant level, you have to accept that you will be represented in good ways and bad ways. Like, think about it this way: there are female villains and there are female heroes in our films. Same with men. There are men heroes and men villains. That's what I got. Like, I was, He-Man. Some of the bad guys were women. Some of the bad guys were men. And some of the good guys were both of each. Right? There was a mix. And when we were growing up, some of the kids would play the bad guy. I'm going to be the bad guy, right? Like I'll be Skeletor and you be He-Man. That's how it worked. So if you want to be represented, that's how you get represented. You don't get to say, "Oh, only show me the good stuff and make sure it's in Pixar films, a nice little family friendly thing so that everybody thinks wonderful of me." No, you have to sometimes be the bad guy. And so again, we're still scrolling here. There was quite a few in the 90s. Quite a few. There's a lot. I'm still scrolling. All right, now we're into the 2000s, 2000 to 2004. Okay? So again, got a whole bunch. And if you go to this, and I've got the link in the show notes. If you go to this and you look through, there's a link to every one of them so you can go and read the storyline. It also will tell you where it came. Like, did it come out in the United States? Did it come out in France? And there's a variety of countries that these movies are coming out of. Party Monster, that was pretty weird, but yeah, they had a trans character there, right? And Party Monster had notable people, had Macaulay Culkin, and then it had um, Marilyn Manson, right? These aren't necessarily famous. I mean, Macaulay Culkin is, but other than that, I don't think there were any famous people famous actors or actresses in the film. But again, if you want to be represented, like this is how representation works, right? So then now we're getting into 2005. I'm just going to go a little bit faster here, all right? Because there's just a lot. Just again, now we're in 2010 to 2014, and there's just film after film after film after film. 2015 to 2019, film after film after film after film, right? Just over and over. I don't know how I should have tried to count them, but I'm willing to bet that Wikipedia here is listing no less than about 100 or more films that have trans characters in them. And some of them, yes, are going to be positive, and some of them will be negative. And that is exactly how representation works. So they are being represented. Now, are they being represented in Disney and kid films? No, but also, like when I was growing up, there were a lot of films that it wasn't really clear to me that there were, like, if I watched The Secret of Nim, right, that's old. I think it's a Disney movie, but that's an old movie, about rats and mice, right? Like these are rats and mice. Yeah, they had genders, but I don't recall watching it and like, wow, I could be, this character. And when it got to video games, sometimes I know guys that would play the girl character, right? Like so I think the key here is to recognize that children have imaginations. And if you just make a good story, their imaginations will take care of everything else. They will sometimes play the good guy. They will sometimes play the bad guy. Sometimes they might play the trans character, you know? And that's okay. Like, just make a good story. Now, I want to show you something more recent because I thought this was kind of interesting. This is a clip from Supergirl. Did you ever watch Supergirl, the show? I did. I thought it was fun. There were some episodes where they were definitely riding the political line. There was one on guns, and there was a distinct difference in the writing and the way that they were delivering their lines, and it was really annoying. Um, but but I remember it in there. But overall, the show was good. It was fun to watch in their Arrowverse, and they crossed over with different shows like I think The Flash and what was the other one? Um, Green Arrow, and I think there's a fourth one. But there were several shows, and they kind of were all in the same universe. And then, like in the middle of the season, each one of the shows would kind of like collaborate with the other or something like that. So here's a clip with a trans character in it from Supergirl, right? That millions of people watched. And I'm pointing this out because I think they did a pretty decent job in this particular scene. So let me give you it's only like a 50-second clip or something like that. So let me tell you what's going on. The character is a trans character. So the person is trans in as a character. And the person playing the character is also trans. Okay. Now I don't believe that you if you want to play a trans character, you have to be trans. And I've seen the argument, and people are like, "Oh, but they'll understand what the real life and the feelings and all that." And I'm like, maybe you don't understand how movies work, but we have these things called actors and actresses where they pretend to be something that they are not. And we really enjoy the ones who can do the better job of pretending to be someone they're not. And it's even more exciting when I watch this movie and somebody's in a film and I know who they are. I know who they are in real life, not like personally, but I know who they are. I know they're not really this character, and they act it out and they make it very believable. And then I see them in another film and they're acting they're representing an entirely different character in an entirely different movie, and they're making me believe that they're that character. Like, that is why people make millions and millions of dollars, because you're like, wow, this is really great. And this is why some actors and actresses kind of get stuck, right? Like, you'll see that one person that's like always the bad guy in a show, or always a military person, right? It's like they don't have like their skill set for whatever reason seems to not lend toward any other type of character, or for whatever reason that's all they ever get cast for. But that's what you end up knowing them as. Well, those are the people that don't rise to the top. People that rise to the top are the people that make you believe, like when you're watching it. I mean, enough says the suspension of disbelief, right? They cause you to believe like, yeah, you're doing a really good job. So here's this character. Now if you happen to be trans and you are playing a trans character, that's fine too. But mostly what me and many others want to see are are actors that are good actors. And so if you can play a trans character and you're not trans, great. That means you're a great actor. And the point has been made. So let me play this. Let me play this clip here because I think this is great. So she's getting ready. So the character's name is Dreamer, and like, there's the storyline is that there are some like aliens, which I think is like a play on the immigration conversation, and they were all together in a bar or something like that, hanging out, and they weren't supposed to be because there was like a curfew or something. And so she goes in there to basically save them against these agents that are coming in to take them. So that's what's going on. And I just want you to see or listen. You'll understand. If you're listening and you're not watching, you'll still get the point. Trust me. So here we go. Ooh,
Get
that's
out of
loud.
here! Get him! I got the kid. Charlie? George, please, don't take me in. You're an alien? Why didn't you tell me? Why do you think?
All right, here it comes. Here it comes.
American woman.
All right. All right. So that's enough of that. Oh, okay. So do you get the point? There is a way to include everybody in film and do it in a way where it's just like I guess you could say classy or kind of follows our expectations. And the reason I point this scene out is because when I saw it, so I watched the whole series, and when they first introduced the character, there were a few chintzy lines in there. I was like, that's cringy, like the way they were, and about being trans, but they were cringy lines because it was like it really felt like you stepped away from the fiction, writing a good story and focused more on, I want to preach. And so I wasn't too keen on that. But then you get to this scene where I was like, okay, this is a good way to have that play out. Like that was really neat. And to be honest with you, I've seen that same kind of scene before, where somebody's in a bar, they're getting in a fight with all the bikers or whomever. Got some weird sounds there from a 5-year-old in the background. So it is what it is, folks. But I've seen people in a bar fighting, and then they kick that one guy, and that guy hits up against the jukebox, and the jukebox kind of plays, inadvertently plays a song, and then that song has something to do with whatever just happened in the story. So like they picked a song to accidentally play that relates to what we just watched. Maybe the characters were arguing about something, or maybe somebody was insulted previously, and then it kind of uses this song to kind of reinforce, like, yeah, that was no good. So I think this was fine. Like, and this is exactly, I think, what parents can appreciate, because I didn't go checking. It might be that people threw a big fit about it. I don't know. But I personally thought it was pretty decent. And that's even accounting for the cringy lines that were included elsewhere. Yeah, regarding this particular character and regarding other elements of the show. Like, because there's always, like, you watch enough shows and you're like, oh, that's kind of a cringy line. And that's okay. Like, it happens. But overall, on net balance, if the show is if the show is focused on being a good show, I think people are going to be very, very tolerant. It's when they feel like they're getting preached at that they're not interested. And so if you're somebody who's in the trans community, your number one demand should be not that you get included, that when you get included, it's done well. That should be your focus. And you should be angry, right? If you're looking for more representation, you should be, and you see something and you're like, ew, that's that's gross, right? Like that's not going to help us. That because the writing was cringy, you're preaching at somebody, you should be upset about that. But ultimately, I think that in reality, we should just allow fiction to be fiction. And people will, writers, story writers, whoever it is that, producers, book writers, authors, whatever, they will come up with the stories. Allow people just do their thing. All right. Let's see. Let's check out a few comments here. Do 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 do. Oh, looking at the comments here. So Joe says they're going to freak out when they find out they don't have to watch everything on Disney Plus. That's true. That's true. Like, I saw a lot of things that I found interesting when I was a kid that I could relate to, even though I wasn't that person, that had nothing to do with Disney. Right. So you're on camera, champ. Say hi to everybody. All right. So yes, that's true. I like a lot of the things that I watched came from a wide variety of sources. I mean, I remember enjoying the old Chinese films, the ninja movies, where the audio was dubbed and then it was off anyway. So like the person would start talking in the film before the audio started playing, or vice versa, which but one of them, they were out of sync, but I enjoyed watching those movies. I was neither Chinese, and nor were these companies like trying to appeal to me necessarily based on who I was as a kid. Like they were just like generically like, here, little boys like action-packed movies with fighting and getting the bad guy. So we'll make one, right? And they like ninja stuff too. So, we'll be ninjas. So, all right, let's move on. Let's go to the next topic here. Yes, yeah, that Liberty lady says Liberty Sun cameo. Yes, and sometimes he's out of school this week, so might make another appearance tomorrow. All right, let's see. What do we got next? So the next story is there. I saw a meme. I saw a meme about Ukraine. Let me put that meme up on the screen here. So and it just kind of annoyed me. Yeah, so let's play this, not play this, but let's show this. So it says, what's the difference between a MAGA Republican and a Ukraine? And it's got like Trump on the left, and then it's got a picture of people over at the Capitol on January 6th, right? And then below it, it says, a Ukrainian defends their capital, and it's got a bunch of soldiers, and then it's got President Zelensky, down below it. And I just like when I first saw it, I rolled my eyes and I was like, for real? And then I kind of responded back, something about the fact that there's a draft because Ukraine has a draft. And so I'm like, I guess if you're drafted and you're forced to fight for your country, then yeah, that's something a little different. And then some people took exception to that. And then somebody else pointed out. So here's the article that I clipped, and I said, everyone will fight. Ukrainian men weigh their options as new draft law comes into effect. And so this was a story from 2024. So earlier this year, right? There's literally this year. We're not talking like year ago, a new draft law is coming into effect. And if you know this show, I oppose a draft. Why? Very simple. You own your body. You can decide what you want to do with it. It's pretty simple. I can decide if I want to go to war, potentially go to war or not. That's what it means to own your own body. The same as I can decide if I want to work at McDonald's or a department store, or if I want to go work construction, or if I want to go and work in the legal profession, right? They're all different aspects. How do I want to use this body? Do I want to go and work in a physical environment where, maybe it's dirty. Maybe I work on an oil rig or something like that, where I'm getting dirty all day long and I'm having to use, whatever physical strength I can, muster all day long. Is that what I want to do? Or maybe do I want to go sit in an office and stare at spreadsheets all day? Like, I don't know who actually wants to do that per se, but maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe I would prefer to do that. My body is my choice. I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth. Right? I get to direct how this body operates. Same goes for war. I can choose to be a soldier or I can choose not to be a soldier. I can choose to be a police officer. I can choose not to be a police officer. And then here's this other image here that somebody else pointed out. Reports Ukraine bans all male citizens ages 18 to 60 from leaving the country. And this was back in 2022. So I want you to think about this for a moment. Like, people are making this argument, and I know it's a meme, right? But the idea is that a meme is a stand-in. It's a kind of like a humorous or interesting way or a visual way to make a point. So it's actually trying to make a serious point. And the serious point here is that, like, the people in Ukraine are more patriotic than the people in the United States, because you had some people that went to the Capitol on January 6th and walk through the Capitol building. Some of them did do damage to things. Those people, if you harmed somebody or you destroyed property, then you should be punished. But if you were just basically walking around, especially if the authorities allowed you to walk around, you should not be punished. But more importantly, that's not really like, the comparison here doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because the US was not being invaded by a foreign country, whereas Ukraine is being invaded by a foreign country. People were protesting and saying, hey, I don't like the results of the election. You can have the argument of whether you think the 2020 election was rigged or not, whether it was stolen. It doesn't really matter because in this country, you have the freedom to say a lot of things. So it could be entirely true that the election was stolen, and you could go out and say, nope, it was not. You're free to do that all day, every day. In the alternative, you could say the election was not stolen. And while the election maybe factually was, you could say it. Oh, no, did I get that right? But you could, vice versa. You could say it was stolen. You could say it wasn't stolen all day, every day. You could start a whole podcast and say, I'm going to dedicate a whole podcast every day to talk about this. You're allowed to do that. Not a problem. You can go and protest. You can go hold up signs and say, no, it wasn't. Yes, it was. Whatever. You don't have to be right. It's not relevant. What's relevant is that you have freedom of speech. So no issue there. But it is an entirely different situation because people were protesting an event that they didn't like. So I think the first thing is comparing these two situations kind of is inappropriate because you're comparing protesters to people that are being invaded. But then let's break it down. Let's say, okay, well, let's talk about being invaded. Number one, I have no issue with Ukraine defending itself. In fact, I'm willing to bet that even like almost every person who says we should not be sending resources or money or any assistance over to Ukraine, they would also say Ukraine can defend itself. That's fine. No issue. Most of us will say Russia invading was wrong. Now we might add a caveat and say like, well, they were wrong, but we understand what led to that decision. And maybe we should address that and deal with it. Okay. So I agree. Invading, wrong. Ukraine, they can defend themselves. However, neither of those two facts make a draft or imposing a travel ban acceptable. Because what you are doing is you are telling a person that person, you're saying, hey, you don't own your body. And I think it makes it worse in this particular situation because if you have the government saying, hey, we need to protect this land here, and the people saying, well, I don't want to protect the land, then what's going on is you've got people that they have no vested interest in it or little, right? Like that kind of tells you how much they care about it if they want to leave the country or if they want to just avoid joining the military. Now, here's something interesting. A lot in the libertarian community, there's a lot of open borders folks. And they also, a lot of them support assisting Ukraine. They'll give you all kind of reasons. NATO, we help our neighbors, blah, blah, whatever. Okay. But they're silent when it comes to travel bans. Isn't that kind of weird? Like, think about that. Some of the same people who will insist that we should have full on open borders, not all of them, but some of them who say we should have an open border will turn around and say, well, it's okay to close the border and force people to go fight. That's what they're saying. So it's like they're not even really open borders. Because if you were open borders, you will say the border should always be open for people to come in and to leave. And that's the big argument against a closed border is that if the border is closed, yes, it may keep people out and it may keep people out that you don't want, but it also could keep people in. Berlin Wall, anyone remember? That was to keep people in. And you could be shot for trying to leave. Like the orders were that you can shoot on sight without getting permission. If you see somebody trying to escape, shoot them. That's what the orders were. So a wall can keep people in or keep people out. And so I'm pointing this out because I think people need to be consistent about their positions. And the reason that and it's not about being consistent for the sake of being consistent. Because again, this all goes down to, does somebody own their own self? If they do, are you supporting that right? And are you supporting it to the fullest? Because what good does it do to say, I believe that people own their own selves and then have a bunch of exceptions? No, either they do or they don't. End of story. And your consistency only matters in the sense that when you're inconsistent, you're advocating that somebody else be forced into slavery. That's really what it's about. It's not about being pure. It's not about purity. I get that all the time. People are like, "Oh, you're just playing purity games." No, I actually care about people. That's what the issue is. I care about people. Now, I want you to imagine yourself. Imagine that you own yourself, which means you own the land that you're on. You should. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment that if someone were to break into your home and demand your things, you have the right now to get out. Like, let's say I'm on the other side of the house. Somebody breaks in and they're like, let's just say they announce themselves. They're like, I'm a robber. I'm kind of making I'm kind of making a contrived story here for the purpose of illustrating the point. But they break in the house and they're like, I'm a robber. I'm here to steal your stuff. And if you don't allow it, I've got a weapon and I'm going to shoot you. So I might be on the other side of the house and hear that and go, now maybe it's just me, right? I have no family to protect. So I might say, I'm not really interested in getting shot over my TV or my Xbox or whatever, right? My computer, my laptop, you know. And so I might just say, let me get out of here. And so I retreat out the back door, hop the fence, go over to the neighbor's house and say, hey, man, I want to call the police. If you don't mind, there's somebody in my house. They literally just broke in and said they were going to shoot me if I tried to stop them from taking my TV. And my neighbor's going to probably go like, oh, okay, here's a phone. And so I can call the police and I could say, hey, police, somebody broke into my home. I had to retreat. Can you please come to 123 Mulberry Lane? And they come out and they will, if they get there in time, then maybe they arrest the perpetrator and then they deal with it. Well, guess what? That's a totally legitimate action, completely legitimate. So now ask yourself, why would it not be the same for the military in an entire country? Someone invades my city, my town, my country, and then like an invading force. I should be equally permitted and have the right to leave and then call up the military and say, man, you better go get those guys. I don't have to join the military any more than I'm obligated to join the police to defend that property. Now, if you want to defend your property, then you should be permitted, and I will always support that. But I also support somebody not supporting or not defending their property and potentially even asking somebody else if they will. Think of it this way. Maybe I don't join the military, but somebody else does. They say, hey, you know what? I want to protect my fellow countrymen, and I'm willing to put my life on the line to do it. And I might say, yeah, I'm not really interested in that. Now we have a mutual agreement. They wanted to, I didn't. We're in the best place that we should be because that person who wants to be there, presumably, will do a good job. Since I don't want to be there, you can't count on me to do a good job. So you shouldn't want me there unless I want to be there. This applies whether it's police or whether it's the military and an invading force. And if you think about it, if somebody doesn't value the land that they're on, whether it's their own property or it's a greater portion of the land, like if I don't value Jacksonville and some invading force comes in and I don't value it enough to stay here and risk my own life, then maybe we should listen to that and we should say, hey, maybe there's more to the story here, right? And I'm not getting into, I'm not trying to get into saying, maybe some of that land is actually Russia's. I'm just saying maybe it's more complex than just simply invading force, go fight. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe the people know something that I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe they're just like, I don't want to fight, period. Okay, well, great. You don't have to. That might mean that you lose all your stuff. We might, as a society, look down upon you, but you should always be permitted to do with your body as you please. 100%. So if you want to join the military and you want to potentially go to a foreign land and you want to, I don't want to say want to die or to get blown up, but you want to take that risk where it might happen, then you should be permitted. But if you don't want, then you shouldn't be forced. So I oppose the draft, and I do not think that it's a proper comparison to say, well, over in Ukraine, they defend their capital because many of them are being forced to. When you're forced to do something, there's nothing admirable about it. So we should just knock it off. And yeah, I get it. It was a dumb meme, right? I'm analyzing a meme. It's 7:30 in the morning. It's 8:30 now. I'm over here analyzing a meme. But the truth is, memes sometimes communicate an idea, and I think that idea needs to be addressed. And I think it. Not so loud, bud. I think it needs to be addressed. And got toys in the background. It is what it is. You can't have Liberty Dad without Liberty Son sometimes. So that's my thoughts on it. And yeah, I get it. Again, it's a meme, but hey, sometimes we got to address these ideas, whether they're in meme format or somebody's writing a long article. It doesn't matter. Ideas are ideas. Let's address them. All right, folks, that's it for today. That's my show. I thank you so much for watching. Hope you found it informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Know again that I will be doing a show tomorrow, the 24th. I will not be doing a show the 25th or the 26th. I will probably be doing a show on the 27th. I'm going to confirm with my guest to make sure they will still be on. And then I will be taking all of next week off, and we will start this show back up again. Running is every morning, 7:30 a.m., starting on January 6th. So that's my plans. By the way, since I was talking about a dad talk coming up this Friday, I'm always looking for dads to join me for Dad Talk. That is my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about. Yeah, in just a minute. Give me a minute. I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. There's no argument, no debate, and dads choose the topic. It's my way of raising dad voices. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel or my Rumble channel. You can go to youtube.libertydad.com or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you're there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Last but not least, I want you to remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, we are both out. And he's waving at you. All right, bye.